Hi there subscribers. Today I'm going to be looking at the whole notion of limit pricing. So this follows on from what I did in my lesson yesterday, where we were just finishing off a little bit of market structures and looking at predatory pricing. Now those of you who follow the OCR specification, you will know that the subsequent method of pricing which is discussed is called limit pricing. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Similar to predatory pricing in the sense that the intention is the same, i.e. to try and monopolize a particular industry and to keep as much of the market share for an individual company or firm within an industry. Okay, so let's get straight to it. So it's our standard monopoly style diagram here. So we're assuming that the firm in question has some type of price setting ability, so they are a price maker. And of course, as you know, that is distinguished and identifiable by the fact that the demand curve is sloping downwards, as opposed to our perfectly competitive firm, where we assume that the firm can sell as many goods at once at the same price, in which case the demand curve is perfectly elastic, as I'm sure you are well aware. So let's cut to the chase here and analyse this particular diagram. It's quite a difficult diagram to draw, this one, so it does take a little bit of practice just to get the points in the right places. So as I keep saying to my class and my students, market structures diagrams, get them into your head, and really there's no substitute for just practice on these diagrams. Okay, so analysis of said diagram. We're looking initially for the profit maximizing level of output. Now of course you know that the profit maximizing output rule is profits are maximized where marginal costs equal marginal revenues. And remember, that's just telling us the output along the bottom, along the x-axis. So let's analyze this on our diagram. There's our marginal cost, there's our marginal revenue, there's marginal cost equal to marginal revenue. So I know that Q1 is the profit maximizing level of output, not price. So we don't take a horizontal line across to the y-axis. Where do we get the price from, ladies and gentlemen? We need to go to the demand curve. So now we know the output, hence we go up and across. And so the profit maximizing level of output for this particular firm in this particular given industry, where it has price setting ability, price is P1 and output is Q1. Okay, what else can we say then, and how else can we analyse this? We can identify the fact that this particular firm is making abnormal profit. Why? Well, we know that the revenue is equal to the price point at P1, but we also know that the cost at this level of output is here. So we're going up from Q1 to the cost curve ATC, we're going across, and so we know that C1 is the cost. So just going to put a couple of further labels on here. That's A, that's B. So I'll not shade these areas, I'll just identify them to you, otherwise it gets a little bit too messy. So I can say that P1, C1, B, A, so that rectangle there, is equal to abnormal profit. Lucky for this firm, isn't it? So it's earning abnormal or supernormal profits, sometimes called monopoly rent as well. Now, what would that do to outsiders from the industry? Outsiders and firms outside might think, I fancy a little bit of that abnormal profit for myself. I'm going to enter that particular industry. So let's just consider what would happen when a firm enters a particular industry. And for this, I'm just going to flick to some very simple micro-analysis by way of a standard demand and supply diagram. So you will know, we're talking year 2 A-level here, so you all know this is equilibrium. What happens when a new firm enters? Well, supply shifts to S2, price falls to P2, and quantity demanded and supplied goes up to Q2. That's the general gist of this. Now, of course, a firm can only enter an industry if the barriers to entry are low. And that's what we're assuming here as well. We're assuming that the barriers to entry are low. And so we're now considering the fact that a new firm enters, attracted by these abnormal profits, and when the new firm enters, they decide, right, well, we're going to charge a price of P2. Their costs are higher, obviously, than the incumbent firm, which is operating at B. So they're going to charge P2 and produce an output of Q2. Now, the new firm will be happy with that in the first instance because, of course, at P2, they're covering their average costs, and so they are making normal profit. So the new firm enters, attracted by the abnormal profits, and in the first instance, at least, they're making normal profits of P2, Q2. Now, let's remember what happens here. Output up, price down. So when the new firm enters, they're supplying Q2, but of course the original firm was supplying Q1. And so now we're adding these two together to aggregate them together. And so now the output of the two firms together is Q2 plus Q1. So we're saying that as a consequence of the new firm entering, price has now dropped to P2 for both firms, and their joint level of output is here at Q2 plus Q1. Now, how does that affect the incumbent firm, the firm which was originally there? Well, now that the price has fallen, they're obviously not earning as much profit. However, the key point to note is that they are still earning abnormal profit. Look, so they're earning abnormal profits from here to here to here, that particular rectangle. So profits are still there, but unfortunately, this area of abnormal profit, which was part of the original, if you recall, that has now been eroded away. And that's been competed away because, of course, of the new firm entering the industry. So the whole notion of limit pricing is, well, if the firm wants the market to itself, maybe it shouldn't initially be so greedy as to charge a price as high as P1, because the problem is, if there are weak barriers to entry, new firms will enter and some of those profits will be competed away anyway and your market share will fall. So this whole notion of limit pricing is suggesting, well, maybe it would be more sensible in the longer term to charge a price of P2, thereby not attracting the new firm, and therefore retaining market share and keeping all of the profit for yourself and not having to split it with other competitors who may be encouraged and incentivized into the market. So that's the general gist of that theory, and just a couple of things to finish on. If the incumbent firm, the original firm, has been in the business for a long time, you know, I'm just going to talk here a little bit about economies of scale, you know that the firm will probably be large, and when a firm grows and enjoys the benefits of economies of scale, as you know, it drops down the short-run average cost curves, down to the minimum efficient scale point here on SAC 3. So it's always probably going to be the case that the incumbent firm will be at a cost advantage relative to the new firm, which might face much higher costs, so it might be SAC 1 rather than SAC 3. So it's always going to be the case that the incumbent firm would be able to survive and still make a reasonable amount of abnormal profit, even if price is reduced, because their level of costs will be that much lower. As you know, if you join these points together, you get your long-run average cost curve, the LRAC. So let's not forget that, and it's a very important aspect of this, that we are also assuming that the firms can enjoy economies of scale. And that ability to exploit those economies of scale means that the incumbent can reduce costs, charge a lower price, but obviously the differential between revenue and cost will be retained, and so that element of abnormal profit is retained. Okay, ladies and gents, that's it. That's limit pricing. Bye.